Perhaps you've stepped on something that really hurt. I remember when I stepped on a board with a nail sticking out of it. It hurt. I had to be sure I had a tetanus shot. I had to be sure that the wound was thoroughly cleaned. And I also had to make sure that nobody else stepped on the same board. Paul says in Ephesians 5:15, "Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise." Let's talk about what's wise. A person who is wise has the power of discerning and judging properly as to what is true or right. They possess discernment, judgment, and discretion. Now, certainly I wasn't walking in wisdom when I left boards around that still had nails in them. And by the way, I've learned my lesson. When I tear down something that's got boards riddled all through it, I bend them down immediately. Secondly, I try to labor in a clean work environment. I found it safer. Paul gives us instruction on how to walk in wisdom in our Christian lives. Now let's read that scripture again. "Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise." Verse 16, "Making the best use of the time because the days are evil. Therefore do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is." Walking in wisdom implies that we take 4 action steps. Step 1, walking in wisdom involves that we walk carefully. Now, believers walk on paths filled with dangers and deception at every turn, and we must make sure that we do not get tripped up. It means we do everything possible to avoid getting ambushed by evil people. Step 2, walking in wisdom involves making the best use of time. The NIV translates it saying, making the most of every opportunity. The favorable opportunity that stands before us to live for Christ comes with a tremendous price that requires responsible action. As we walk in wisdom, we must seize every opportunity to live right and to do the right thing in regarding telling people about Jesus. Step 3, walking in wisdom involves understanding that the days are evil. We are living in the last days before the coming of Christ. Satan realizes that his time is short, so he's unleashed a fury of evil upon mankind. And that means we can't relax. We've got to remain diligent. Step 4, walking in wisdom involves understanding what the Lord's will is. Believers must understand God's plan for their lives. And knowing the Lord's will goes way beyond knowing the difference between right and wrong. Understanding the Lord's will means that we live with purpose, which motivates us to do great things for God. Now, this can be illustrated in what happened to David Moore. He wrote a book called The Last Men's Book You'll Ever Need. He talked about he had a goal when he went to Stanford University to start a Bible study in a Sigma Chi fraternity house. For over a year, he could get nothing going. And then came his God-given opportunity disguised as hassle. He was rushing to the campus post office to mail a package before the morning class let out, and a man on a free speech platform was pointing out specific sins in the lives of people he'd never met, while claiming to be free from sin himself. God told David to go over and question him. "Sorry, I'm not available to interact with this Yahoo." But after a few minutes of arguing with God, David caved in and engaged him. Several hundred students gathered, and as they finished, the Sigma Chi fraternity house president approached David and said, "Would you debate this evangelist tonight?" Well, after the debate, several students asked if David would lead a Bible study in their house. He said he's often talked about those times where those young men would stay up to 1 or 2 in the morning. He said, "I'll never forget the godly convictions that were forged in that study." David said this, "I don't even remember what was in the packages that I was supposed to be mailing or who they were even to go to." Slowing down to hear God, I learned that God can lead you to ministry that is so many times overlooked when we rush through life. Ephesians 5:15, "Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil." Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. Let's walk in wisdom as we live all out for God, and let's see great things accomplished.